Alright everyone, welcome back. Happy Saturday everybody. I hope you're all having an amazing weekend so far, and given that there's been a lot of problems happening over at Disney between the Indy 5 box office results and what's going on, of course, with the Galactic Star Cruiser Hotel, which by the way is getting ready to be bulldozed in just a short number of months. On top of that, we also have a lot of things going on with Bob Iger, where he literally went on the record making a fool of himself to the general public about the current state of Disney. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new and like this video to see future updates. I'm also on Twitter at Mike01. I thank you all so very much for the great and kind support. And let's get right into the subject, shall we? Now, we know that Kathleen Kennedy is in a very tough spot for Disney and, of course, Lucasfilm. And when it comes down to the specifics of Lucasfilm, she has failed them 3 times, alright? She has literally tarnished the Star Wars brand, more so than tarnished, actually. She has destroyed the Willow series, and she has brought the Indiana franchise down to the ground, essentially. She really did something on a historic level that a lot of fans would have never guessed could have happened years ago. And here we are, you know, Indiana Jones as a franchise has been tainted with the last movie and left off on a very bad note. They should have just really left it the way it was and it would have been fine. But no, we had Kathleen Kennedy and she had to get involved with that. But things actually get worse with the whole blacklisting situation that we talked about a couple of days ago. What's going on with the Hollywood studios, her husband Frank Marshall, the Disney board. It's getting really ugly, and we're going to be talking about all the specifics about all of this. So sit back, relax, and let's get into the actual details here. Now, with those like Kathleen Kennedy and Phoebe Waller-Bridge endlessly defending Indy 5, however, it's noted that one major development happening behind closed doors involves the blacklisting of Kathleen Kennedy and how the entire situation got even worse. As of now, even more studios have reportedly blacklisted Kathleen Kennedy due to the historic failure of Indy 5 at the box office. These other studios now include those like 20th Century Fox, Sony Pictures, Columbia, as well as Lionsgate, and even major studios for subscription services such as HBO, Starz, Showtime, and more, all of which have blacklisted Kathleen Kennedy and now use her as a textbook example of how to never run a business and how to destroy 3 franchises in under 10 years. Studios like Skydance, Paramount, Universal, and more are said to be rising up to take advantage of Disney's current situation of going downhill to strike while the iron is hot, to create proper content for fans by fans that will actually resonate well with the audience. Now guys, let me say one thing about this. I mean, that is right on the money. The fact that these studios want to strike while the iron is hot, because basically Disney is now flawed and these other studios now have the upper hand. Look at what's happening with Top Gun Maverick, Mission Impossible 7. Skydance and Paramount are killing it. They are doing an amazing job. They don't plan on stopping these Mission Impossible movies, and we already know that Disney's getting desperate. We talked about this, about creating their own equivalent version of that. We have more on that later, by the way. But this is where things get worse, is the fact that also on top of this, alright, a lot of these studios that were on the fence of blacklisting Kathleen Kennedy have now finalized that call and really want nothing to do with her. But now, the progression of all of this got even more intense because now it involves Frank Marshall. But what's even all the more crazy about this is how it is making Disney look bad internally. And I say internally between themselves and the other studios, because they are making themselves look foolish for having Kathleen Kennedy still on board over at Lucasfilm, running all things, of course, Star Wars still to this day. Now look, this is where things get really intense between the board, because a lot of which are trying to resolve the issue. Let's dive into the specifics about that too. Now, on top of that, Frank Marshall, alright, Kennedy's husband, is described to be attempting to pull some strings with his contracts, or his contacts, at those studios to lift the blacklisting of Kathleen Kennedy. Right now, many members of the board at Disney are said to be very embarrassed with Kennedy still as president of Lucasfilm, and are calling for her firing since defending, of course, others in the past, and how other board members are defending Kathleen Kennedy against of course, her getting fired. That, of course, is the current shakeup happening over at Disney right now, and with 3 candidates standing by to top, of course, and take over. Bob Iger is currently heading into multiple emergency meetings next week because of this entire situation of the studios blacklisting her and how internally it's making Disney look very bad. Many of the studios actually just finalized their decision to keep both Kennedy and even Frank Marshall away to focus on success. And we've talked about this, guys. Universal is reportedly creating their own Nintendoverse. There's a lot of rumblings right now that they are making a Legend of Zelda film, as well as the sequel to the Super Mario Bros. Movie and more. And then you got Skydance and Paramount, where they are basically developing more Mission Impossible movies. There's even rumblings about a 3rd Top Gun movie in development that they want to use as a way to end that franchise and just serve it as a trilogy. Honestly, why not? Why wouldn't they want to do that? I mean, as long as they have a story, good on them. It's gonna make money. So we know that Universal is trying to up their game, even with the parks against Disney. We have Epic Universe that's going to be debuting in 2025 in Orlando. That's another big tactic against Disney. And we know that there's a lot of people not present at the Disney parks, and Bob Iger has been blaming it on the weather and stuff like that. I mean, he's getting very defensive over that. But this is where things get crazy. The fact that all of these Hollywood studios in the Hollywood bubble want nothing to do with Kathleen Kennedy, and some of which nothing to do with Frank Marshall because he's associated with her. And that just goes to show you that she really is disliked, even now in the Hollywood sphere, as I like to call it. And it's only going to keep getting worse because eventually, you know, it's really going to become very much common that she is like the worst of the worst for anything movie related, TV show related, or anything like that. I mean, she's not the same Kathleen Kennedy that she was decades ago. We all know that she was a part of Back to the Future and many of these other big Hollywood hits. She's not the same exact person as then. Somewhere along the way, we all know that Hollywood shifted. It was like the rise and fall in 2015. Right around that time frame is where things really started to change for a lot of people in Hollywood. And Kathleen Kennedy was like, literally like the top of the example of that. Now, I'm not saying that she was always great. We know that Steven Spielberg had his own arguments about her, that she would always cut in between sentences when having a conversation about a project, or she would always bring in terrible ideas into the room. Spielberg went on the record actually saying this in an interview. You can actually hear him talking about it. It's somewhere on there. Go ahead and look it up. But yeah, I mean, it's interesting to see that this is where things are heading now. Internally, the Disney board is embarrassed about this. They look like, you know, complete fools because she's still the president of LUCASFILM, yet she has been completely blacklisted from Hollywood. No other studio wants to work with her. Hence, this is forcing her to, you know, expedite her actual new studio, Starlight Productions, that we've talked about, that she wants to use that as a way to compete against sci-fi epics. So anyways, guys, drop a comment below, fill me in below in the comments what you all have to say about this, and if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel, and I will catch you guys next time.